All right. So one thing that is really interesting to me always when we talk about apps in the marketplace and Atlassian entrepreneurship ideas and things like that is what was the origin of the app? I wanted that to be the first question to you. How did you come up with the idea, and how was it bringing this to light in the first place?
That's a really straightforward one. We try to get at Kickdrum, we try to get app ideas from stuff we actually find a need for in our own work, doing consulting work. And so we noticed that we were using Jira and had the need to attach stuff that was needed to be secured on it, like server certificates, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So it was initially for yourself, for Kickdrum technology, for your own consumption.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of leads us with the opportunity to, do like an internal, like we wouldn't make it that polished if we weren't going to release it publicly. So it's worth the effort to do it for our internal use. And then if we like it and we still have confidence in it after we have like a kind of an MVP version or beta version, then we go ahead and release it publicly. And that's basically how it happened.
Wonderful. And what kind of things do you actually use it for right now internally? If you're still using it, what kind of things do you attach and secure with Team Secrets?
Everything we recommend in the marketing materials that's relevant to our industry. So we're in software development, so we have stuff like passwords, server certificates, legal documents, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Nice. Okay, and now let me jump to some of the questions that we have in the script, because this one was kind of a small surprise for you, but I noticed that it wasn't in the script, and it was a good one to start with. So yeah, and then I guess that do you have a lot of I don't know exactly in your consulting practice, do you usually encounter a lot of customers that are security obsessed? Is that a common topic to them, or is it only part of them that are security concerned?
I would say it's a concern for everyone these days, and that's because of the way things have changed in the past 10 years with moving to the cloud. Now you're exposed in a completely different way. You can't just say that you have your data center secured at a certain level. Now you have so many other different ways that you're exposed and different considerations that have come into the picture. And then it's also become a lot more public when security goes wrong. So yeah, I would say everyone's concerned, and it's always a kind of a balancing thing. So there's so many distractions as well, because software projects are just like they always have been, which is things get behind schedule or there's time pressures. And so you focus on those for a while, and then security falls down, and then you have to pick it up again. And so you're back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I also feel that that's true, that it's become very, very public when there are security issues, and they get just, you get a bad rep for something that could have been easily avoided. I think we see those every week almost. So what are then your security conscious customers overlooking? There's the questions that you were suggesting for our script. What do you think they usually think? Okay, we need to fix certain aspects, but they forget about something important as well.
So I think they overlook securing things sometimes. So I'm thinking mostly from the Jira perspective or similar, is that they'll overlook specifically what kind of attacks are they protecting against. So a lot of times the word encryption will get thrown around very casually, and the idea is like, oh, we're encrypted, we're good, and that's like a checkbox, and it's really not, because you can encrypt stuff and essentially add nothing to the process. Because if you have the same database with the encrypted data and the key, if that database is compromised, you're just adding one extra step for the person who's compromised the database to, to decrypt. It's not actually adding anything. So how are you adding to the protection? What additional attacks are you protecting against? Is the question I like to focus on. So encryption is part of that, but it's not an answer. It depends how that encryption is adding a layer for certain use cases where it's now impossible to compromise the data.
Got you. And how do you, that's how you framed, I guess, the solution for the Team Secrets app, and how is your solution packaged specifically and in addressing that question?
So I think it's kind of a contrast to some of the other solutions I've seen on the marketplace, is that we focus on security as a number one thing, even in some cases that limits your flexibility. Sometimes we have customers, they want to do something more flexible. They ask why they can't do this or do that. And it's comes down to the fundamental design. In some cases, like, we can offer that flexibility, we can, but in doing so, we'd be disabling a certain level of security. And so we have to kind of explain that, and then it leads into the attack vectors that we're protecting. We're protecting against a compromised employee login. We're protecting against employees not being on a project gaining access. That's because we allow very, very exact permissions. You can share something with one single other person or just two other people who specifically need it. We're protecting against the rogue admin, which is, I would say, less common because the keys are usually just stored in the database. We have them stored across two different systems, both our system and the customer system. So somebody wanted to compromise that, they would actually have to, attack multiple systems, which is much more challenging because the systems are not, we're separate companies entirely. Like, we have different security patterns behind how they're protected. And then we're kind of included in the other ones, but we're basically, if the database is compromised, we're also covering that. And so some solutions are just asking for like the same Jira login password to be repeated, and they're saying they have encryption and stuff like that. In my mind, the only attack vector I could think of that they're actually truly protecting against is an employee logs in Jira, walks away for a coffee refill, somebody comes up to his desk and doesn't know the Jira password. And to me, that's not very exciting. Like, you can protect a lot more with the same amount of effort if you just consider what you're trying to protect against and try to cover as many bases as you can with your design.
Got you. I love your explanation. Thanks for that. So I'm curious about something else. Perhaps you don't know it, perhaps you have some signals about that. How many of your customers come to you after they've had an issue, after they have had their attachments compromised, after there's been a problem with a rogue admin or with someone stealing confidential information, as opposed to having a proactive approach to say, hey, this can happen to anyone, let's be smart about it and just get on top of this?
We haven't had anyone openly admit to that yet. You can suspect that it may have happened in a few cases when they seem especially touchy about the subject, but no, we haven't had anyone tell us that.
Okay. I assume it's not easy to admit that to a third party, right? But do you kind of read it on their urgency, I guess, right? Or on how touchy they are or how concerned they are when they talk about the issue?
Yeah, I wouldn't be 100% sure. We have a lot of people that are looking for security solution, and they have a very tight deadline. And that's just because a lot of people think that they don't think it through when they're planning to start using Jira. And then when the topic comes up, they want something that works immediately. And while you can add the add-on for Team Secrets immediately, sometimes it doesn't have the exact use case that they're looking for. And so they want to ask about customization, and that's a several month process to actually be able to develop custom code for somebody. So
right. But do you do that? Is that something that you offer as well?
Yeah, we're completely open to any way we can strategically align with customers' needs. So if they need something that we don't see market need for at all, that would be kind of like professional services. And then if they
Right.
see something, they need something that already aligns with our roadmap and what we're seeing other customers ask for, we try to see how we could work with them to accelerate the development if we can, or at least tell them, when the feature is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've seen that. I've seen that. Yeah, but it's good that you have a clear process. Yeah, we want to ship it. You're gonna have to pay for it if it's completely customized just for you guys. But yeah, it makes sense because it's a very sensitive subject. And what are the things, the attachment that customers are most commonly concerned about? Because I'm a marketer, so I only share like images, screenshots in Jira. So to me, the question, we should secure this, would never be would never be something. We should secure our Slack better for sure, because we share a ton of things over there, but not so much our Jira, because at least how I use it, it's just, as I said, like screenshots, videos, stuff, work we are working on, right, for collaboration purposes.
That's an interesting topic. I was actually hoping you were going to be able to answer a question for me, because I was looking through the industries that we have customers in, and surprisingly, we have several in digital marketing, and I can't think of what they would be securing exactly. I'm a little bit curious about that one, because the other ones I can come up with a good guess, but
Well, I guess it might be customer data, customer, whatever is related to a customer project, right? Because you don't want that leaking, or I don't know, or in some kind of way. I've never worked at an agency, but I know that it's very different to work at a major marketing agency as opposed to working in operational marketing in-house for a company full time. It's extremely different. So if you're doing pitches to customers, and you know that you're competing with other agencies, I guess in some industries, countries, and so on, the top three, four, five agencies are always competing against each other for big firms, right? For the big names. And I guess in that situation, you're preparing this presentation, your whole team is on a crunch mode for like I don't know if weeks, but doing really long hours, which is the usual standard for that industry. And you don't want anything to leak. You want to, have the biggest bang you can for your presentation day, just as an example. But I think that's probably part of the story.
makes sense.
Yeah. And so, what other industries do you have most customers in?
So the really obvious ones that don't surprise me at all, which are
Banking,
medical and
medical.
financial services,
Yeah.
and then software development, which makes sense to me because that's why we developed the product for our own
Yeah.
consulting work. We noticed a need for it, and then trying to see what else do we have. Oh, we've seen HR customers as well, and that makes sense. You have social
Yeah.
security numbers or financials in there, so
Yeah. Personal data for sure. For sure.
and then we've seen we added support in the past, I think year and a half ago, for service management, and a lot of companies are starting to roll out service management to do their help desk, or if they're a company that's focused on just doing help desk as a consulting type of deal. And so we're seeing more and more adoption there in service management use case, which is we actually support secure sharing of data from external customer users to your internal agents.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's a nice thing for sure. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Let me see if I have any other question on the list. We digressed a lot from the script, but that's a good thing, I think, in a conversation, that it kind of flows. Chun, chun, chun. Right. So, well, something I was curious, because I know very little about security and encryption, but what you've done with team secrets, is it also like extraordinarily mature for other systems? Like if you start using, like, I don't know, Salesforce, and start attaching stuff in there, those attachments would have the same level of protection that they have in Jira, or are they more protected? Or would it make sense for you guys to go into a different marketplace and create encryption, team secret apps for other marketplaces as well? It's a lot of different questions into one, but I just want to know how the Jira security baseline compares to other kind of SaaS products that you know, say ServiceNow or Salesforce for more kind of commercial things, and so on and so forth. Even Zendesk, I guess, and whether you've considered that a business opportunity.
That's a good one. So we did originally have team secrets for Gmail. We found it challenging to get traction on the Google Play Store for that. As an add-on, Google now has actually native support. A lot of people actually don't realize it, but if you're actually looking into it, there's actually native support on Gmail for sending encrypted messages.
Okay.
And so that kind of reduced the need. As far as other products, just because of the fact that we started this as something that we could directly apply and use ourselves, and we don't really have Salesforce or some of these other things, I don't see us moving in that direction.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. And last final technical question. Can you explain to me what is end-to-end encryption? I think you covered it a little bit, but I'm not sure that if that was the exact concept you were describing. And why do you recommend it?
End-to-end encryption. So if you look at where the data can be compromised, there's multiple points along the pathway from the person who shares it to the person who should be able to receive it. There's nothing you can do in terms of a software solution if you're doing something like a encryption for email or encryption for Jira attachments, anything like that, that would address the actual end user's machine being compromised. If somebody has a camera on their keyboard and can record their password, or someone has a keylogger, or somebody has a Trojan or virus installed on their system, or somebody steals the system and somehow has the password to get into it, that file is going to be wide open. And there's approaches you can use to reduce the risk there, but that's outside the domain what you're going to attack with something that encrypts email or gets the data from one point to another. So in my view, our responsibility starts at the first user's machine and ends at the second user's machine, because since there's multiple points along that pathway, it makes sense that our responsibility should be to protect that entire pathway 100%, absolutely, as be as fortified as possible. With end to end, it's saying that we've achieved that if we've done it properly. So the reason I believe we've done it properly is that the decryption and encryption engine actually runs in the user's browser. So there's not a point where the server takes the password and then decrypts it and then sends the data over. In that case, you would have an opportunity for the data to be compromised between the machine that the user is using and the server, which is, there's numerous different attacks you could do on a network over there, and that way to get a hold of the data. So by it happening actually in the browser, we're at no more risk than the user having the data and not sharing it, because if they hadn't shared it at all, it would have resided on their hard drive anyways. So if we make it safely to their hard drive, we've done our job as completely and comprehensively as we can. Wow. So that's kind of how I would describe it, is everything that you can cover has been covered as soon as it leaves the user system.
Fantastic. That's a super nice answer. I didn't expect so much content in there. It's really, really good. Thank you. So how have you approached this? Do you have, there's several dimensions here, but was the development very different for cloud and for data center? That's one. And do you offer the same functionality? Is there feature parity between the two versions of the product?
I think we knew we were going to go for both platforms since day one, and that helped us a lot, because Data center has definitely, for all of this time, the past many years, been much more flexible, and cloud has been very limited, in part because it was the new thing, but also in part because of the limitations of, you know, you don't have full access to the hardware in kind of the same way that you do in data center. And so we were able to abstract away some of our code for the UI and put that and have that be mutual between data center and cloud. So that kind of helped us a lot with the size of the development work that needed to be done not being as large, because we at least got some reuse in there, but we definitely can't just add a feature to data center and have it available in cloud. That it's a whole separate several month process to develop in each every time we want to add something. So there's changes that are coming, and they're looking, I'm optimistic about them. So there's Forge, which is coming out, and it looks like it's going to be, so currently everything's in Connect, and we're looking at how we can leverage Forge to add features that we were never able to add on cloud that we've had in data center all along, because there's certain flexibility that hasn't until now been offered in cloud. So that would be like our custom fields encryption feature, because custom fields wasn't really a thing. So we're looking into that, and we're also optimistic that we might find other things we can add with Forge in the future that previously we were limited on cloud.
Sounds great. Yeah, we've been fairly optimistic about Forge as well. It's going to be maturing along the way. It's not ready yet to develop very complex apps, but it's already come a long way, I feel. And Atlassian is also, I think, very receptive about discussing things that you need to make your apps work. So they're very welcoming to have feedback along those lines. If there's anything they can help you with or that makes sense and kind of aligns to their roadmap, but it's a detail that they were not seeing. All that feedback is super useful for them. At least in our experience, it's been that way. And okay, so final question, a little bit about your role. You are product manager for Team Secrets, which is a very mature app, but you also do consulting work, I understand. How do you juggle between those two natures? Because it's very different, right? To be on a project for a specific customer, and then to have the mindset of we're building a product that has to scale for a multitude of potential customers.
It's a very common scenario in Kickdrum, and thankfully they're very supportive of doing this, and so it works out pretty well. I usually have a very clear set of priorities. It's something like consulting work can end up being ranked higher than getting out the next feature in Team Secrets. On the other hand, if somebody, a customer on Team Secrets has a live site issue, that's our number one priority. And we wake up people in whatever part of the world, developers, to get things fixed. The nice thing, I guess, is that that's usually pretty clear cut. Live site goes before consulting work, but consulting work is really high priority in terms of hitting deadlines. But usually those deadlines are like weeks or months, so you could make up for lost time by taking a weekend or taking some extra hours here and there. So it's not the end of the world. Really, I guess the one challenging thing is occasionally I'm involved in some of our private equity assessment work, and those have very strict deadlines. And so, sometimes I might need to call for backup in that case.
Right.
Because you have like a live site Team Secrets issue plus a deadline of like 4 more days to get a report back to a private equity company based on evaluation, and there's no room for there's no extra room in there.
Gotcha.
But thankfully that's not a large portion of the year. So
and it's good that you can get that backup.
Like you mentioned, it's a mature product, so Team Secrets doesn't have live site issues on any sort of regular basis.
Okay, awesome.